Well, hello. This is Pastor Woods from Grace Lutheran Church in New Albany, Indiana, and this is the weekly devotion for February 22nd, 2021. Go and do likewise. That's the title for today. Our reading is from Luke chapter 10, a parable we all know well called the Good Samaritan. Starts with verse 30. In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" Jesus asks. The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." Last week's winter storm, Uri, and I really didn't know they were naming winter storms now, but okay. During the winter storm Uri, as we all know, we've heard that Texas was hit pretty hard. It had very cold temperatures along with snow and ice, just as we did here in Indiana, except they don't have the winter equipment that we have, or of any kind rather, for the weather they had. It just doesn't happen like that in the South, not normally anyway. To make matters worse, the electric windmill farms froze up and stopped producing electricity, which meant a lot of people were without power, and in some cases even water. I know that in one case our preschool staff had a daughter down there who had been without power for 3 days when we talked to her in the cold. Can you imagine camping out in the cold? Yikes, right? And to make matters much worse, a boil order alert came about. Now I'm kind of wondering, it's kind of like a slap in the face. How are you supposed to boil water with no electricity? So it just seemed like a big compound mess. There was at least one bright spot in all of this. A story that comes out of Austin, Texas, that particular area. A fellow by the name of Ryan Sibley, who helped 140 stranded drivers in the Austin area during the winter storm in just 2 days. Reports have said that Sibley did it old school. He got out a 4-wheel drive pickup truck, had chains and tow straps, and he just went and helped out his neighbors, one at a time. Since most Texas are not known for their winter driving abilities, a lot of them got stuck in the snow and ice on the sides of the road, you can imagine. But when someone is stranded in record low temps, there is actually a real possibility of freezing to death in the car. And if you have kids in the car, it becomes extremely dangerous and a lot more worrisome if you're that parent. So if you're one in that car, you're probably hoping for some kind of help to come along. So Sibley pulled them out one by one, and in some cases he drove them all the way to a warm place, a safe place, because their cars weren't running. He simply decided to help anybody he saw because he thought, that's what I would want. Here's the kicker. In one interview, he explained that he had a second chance at life. Turns out, sometime back, Sibley had a terrible accident himself. He got hit in a multi-car accident, it sounds like, which shattered his pelvic bone and nearly took his life. Today he can't lift more than 20 pounds in one of his arms, and he can't walk for more than 2 hours a day. He's got a lot of limits. So he says, "I drive a truck." And he did. He drove the truck for a lot of people. And here's the other fun part. And I've said something like this before. The world is hungry for good Samaritans. You know, they just step up when the need is there, and they take the risk, and they many times assume the expense of time or resources, whatever it is it takes to help someone out. In Sibley's case, it was mostly gas and time. but he was willing to give it, and it helps out a lot of people. What if the bandits, came back and robbed the Good Samaritan after all the road from Jerusalem to Jericho was known for its banditry, and the story that Jesus tells is a familiar one and reasonable in the minds of the people who are familiar with that kind of traffic. Such a picture is very plausible. Trouble on the road is all Sively saw. He had the truck, the willingness, and the chains to pull them, and he took a risk of getting stuck himself, really, over 140 times. It didn't matter. He saw a need and he acted. The very fact that this made news is evidence, however, that the stuff Jesus is teaching us, well, the world is hungry for it. There's an important place for that in our world, and people, even a sin-filled world, knows how good that is. Tow trucks may have driven right on by, like the priests and the Levi in the parable that Jesus tells, the ones you would expect to help. But the one who is actually looking to do things does the stopping and the helping and asks for nothing in return. He shows mercy. So I think it's a good thing to remember the world is still hungry for what God is talking about, what Jesus is saying here. And that gives us opportunity, like Sively had, to do good things for the sake of Jesus. Now we've absolutely have no idea if Sively is a Christian or not, but one can't argue that what he has done has helped a lot of people. The world can't get enough of that. The world is hungry for someone to love them, someone to be a good neighbor. The Samaritan wasn't even Jewish, technically not even a person of God. Jesus gives no indication that the Samaritan loved God at all. But his actions were very reflective of an undeniable truth. A neighbor is anyone who is in need. And if we are in need, if we see a need rather, we are called to action, especially if the problem is life-saving. And how much more, if we are Christians, is that our call? Now I know the world has plenty of reasons not to put ourselves out there, but let me just give you a reason that we should do so anyway. Galatians 6:9-10, which says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people," it says, "especially to those who belong to the family of believers." When you listen to that, it's pretty clear that doing good when opportunities come up and not giving up, that's still a very important message that Jesus is trying to tell us, that the Word is trying to tell us. Don't give up. Don't give up on what Jesus calls good. So helping others in pandemics, if you think about it, in the early days of the church, grew the church exponentially because Christians just went out and helped one another and did ordinary things. Helping our neighbors is still important. It may save their lives, or it might just change their lives, or it just might make their day. But as Christians, helping others gives us the chance to express our love for Jesus and for our neighbor. And that's why we do it. This, by the way, is the fulfillment of the law, to love the Lord and to love your neighbor. And it sounds like a winner, doesn't it? It sounds like a winner to the world. That's why they keep reporting on such things. Since Jesus has been so good to us, I would suggest that we allow ourselves to lend ourselves in service and become instruments that might lead others to Jesus. You never know. And so let us go and do likewise as Jesus calls us to do. Well, I'm Pastor Woods, and this has been the Daily Devotion. Just a couple of announcements. We continue with our Lenten series this Wednesday night with the Palm Sunday event, the colt, the foal of a donkey, as we walk the road of perdition with Jesus to the cross. We also have opportunity again to volunteer. We have upcoming next week. We have opportunity to get some fish on Friday night with the preschool fish fry, and you can actually get ahead of the game and order online if you want to at glcna.org. Or you can also help us out next week and week after Sugar Bush, Saturday and Sunday, the 27th and the 28th, which is next week, this coming weekend. And then the following weekend, March 6th and 7th. Now the shifts run from 8 o'clock to 12:30 and 1 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and then 12:30 to 5. And we have vans running. We have transportation if you need a ride from church. But we need some more volunteers to make that possible. And that's always a good fundraiser for us. And this year we're hoping to help out a few places that need the help. And we just ask for your help to make that possible. And to go and do likewise, really. As we think about the things that are coming up, we'll call it Easter week, Holy Week. We'll be here before we know it. Before then, we have opportunities also to give blood on March 11th. I want to keep you mindful of that too. That'll be here before we know it. I don't know about you, but my phone's been blowing up like crazy by the Red Cross asking for blood. And so it's one of those things. So these are just a few things that are coming up, and we would just urge you to think about them, pray about them at the very least, and we appreciate your support. In the meantime, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with his favor and give you his peace in Jesus. I'm Pastor Woods. Thanks for being with us today. Have a good week. Bye-bye.